Alrighty then, here we go. Welcome. This is session number 90. All right. Reading A Course in Miracles. I never say that. I guess I said that in the beginning. All right. This is reading from the text in A Course in Miracles. We're on chapter 12. Section 5 for you Romans. All right, section 5. It's on page 225. All right, session number 90. It's called the Sane Curriculum. Just a little side note. Helen Schuckman, who was the scribe of the course, all right, as she was writing these things down for 7 years, she was an academic, so it came through in those terms, and this is what she would understand. That this was a curriculum. This was like a college course, all right, which is why she was breaking Jesus' horns in the beginning, saying, well, is this a required course? All right. Or is it an elective? And he told her it's a required course. And Dr. Wapnick always said that I think he kind of regretted putting that in the beginning of the text, because he didn't want to give the idea that unless you read the Course in Miracles, you couldn't reach the idea of atonement or salvation. So I didn't want to give that idea. But anyway, that's why this word curriculum comes up, right? And Jesus is going to be talking about the sane curriculum, all right? But of course, as Jesus does before he gets there, he gives us some insight into the insane curriculum. That's enough about me. So let's begin. Section 5. Only love is strong because it is undivided. The strong do not attack because they see no need to do so. Before the idea of attack can enter your mind, you must have perceived yourself as weak. Because you attacked yourself and believed that the attack was effective, you behold yourself as weakened. No longer perceiving yourself and your brothers as equal, and regarding yourself as weaker, you attempt to equalize the situation that you made. You use attack to do so because you believe that attack was successful in weakening you. All right. It says only love is strong because it's undivided. All right. There are no pieces. There's no beginning and no end. All right. It is eternal. All right. And he goes, the strong don't need to attack. All right. He says before the idea of attacking anyone or anything, before that could come into your mind, you have to perceive yourself as weak. And he says that is because you attacked yourself. You attacked the oneness of heaven. When that tiny mad idea arose that said, oh, maybe I could be an individual. Maybe God will recognize me as an individual, and I can break free of this oneness thing, okay? All right, he says, but you attacked yourself, and you believed the attack was effective. All right? I mean, you automatically believed you did it, and with that came guilt and fear. All right? And you felt diminished, because now you turned your back on everything. All right? Just when the decision-making part of the mind chose to align itself with that thought that I could be separate. And once again, I'll reiterate that every time Jesus says the word you in this text or throughout the books, he's not talking to you as Kevin, right? He's talking to the decision-making part of your mind, right? That mind that constantly chooses, all right? Throughout the day, we relive the time when terror took the place of love. In other words, throughout the moments of the day, that decision-making part of the mind is deciding what thought system it's going to align itself with. Either the thought system of separation or the thought system of oneness. Right? And when we align ourselves with the thought system of oneness, I mean, he says, and then you believe you could do that. You believe the attack was effective. Right? He says, and therefore you behold yourself as weakened. Right? And you don't see the abstractness of the oneness anymore. Right? And he says you don't see your brothers as equals. Right? Now we perceive others. And there's duality. There's me and something else. All right? Instead of just total abstract oneness. No longer perceiving yourself or your brothers as equal. And regarding yourself as weaker, you attempt to equalize the situation. You use attack to do so because you believe that attack was successful in weakening you. Right? So that's what we do. We try to equalize the situation, and we attack. You know, it's done in so many ways, all the time. The moment we perceive an other, and we perceive differences, and we start to judge those differences, as if the differences made a difference, right? And then we start attacking those differences, and he says you're trying to equalize the situation. Okay? So, paragraph 2. That is why the recognition of your own invulnerability is so important to the restoration of your sanity. Right? For if you accept your invulnerability, you are recognizing that attack has no effect. Although you have attacked yourself, you will be demonstrating that nothing really happened. Therefore, by attacking, you have not done anything. Right. Once you realize this, you will no longer see any sense in attack. For it manifestly does not work, and it cannot protect you. Yet the recognition of your invulnerability has more than negative value. If your attacks on yourself have failed to weaken you, you are still strong. You therefore have no need to equalize the situation to establish your strength. Right. Now this whole paragraph is what we will continually refer to as the atonement principle. He's telling you nothing happened. Okay? There's the belief that you separated from God, and then there's the correction of that belief that says nothing happened. Okay? And he says that's why the recognition of your own invulnerability is so important to the restoration of your sanity. Right? Because once we believed that we could separate from God, we are now insane. We are following the insane curriculum. Okay? And I always liked words. And the Latin roots of the word insane, all right, it's well, two words. It's the in, which negates, and sano, S-A-N-O, sano. All right, there used to be a phrase in Rome that said, mens sana in corpore sano, which just meant a healthy mind and a healthy body, or a strong mind and a strong body, however you want to say it. But the word sano was the word for health. All right? So think of it this way. If you choose to believe you're separated from the oneness, you're not in good health. All right? As a matter of fact, Jesus would say, there is no life outside of heaven. Okay? So you are part of that famous movie, Night of the Living Dead. All right? He says that's why the recognition of your own invulnerability is so important to the restoration of your sanity. He says you have to remember, you have to recognize that you are invulnerable. You have never left the mind of God. There are no threats. There can never be any threat. There can only be eternal comfort and joy and bliss, right? Extending itself forever. Okay? And he says you have to recognize that. He says that's really important to the restoration of your sanity, right? The health of your mind. All right? And you have to admit that this world is nuts, believe me. I mean, if you had you don't need me to tell you that. You know, we could just, you know, whistle past the graveyard, as most of us do, but and you try not to think about it, but when you do think about it, this is one crazy place, all right? All kinds of atrocities being perpetrated. Little ones, big ones, they're all the same. Okay? That's why the recognition of your own invulnerability, the recognition of who you truly are, okay? It's so important to the restoration of your sanity. For if you accept your invulnerability, you're recognizing that attack has no effect. Right? Because if you accept the fact that you are that, as Gangaji would say, all right? You are the great expanse. All right? You are everything. You have everything. He says if you recognize that, if you accept that, you realize, you recognize that the thought that I could leave oneness is that it has no effect. Right? It was the thought that I could leave the oneness. That's the attack. That's why he says you attacked yourself. Because there's no difference between you and God. You see, it keeps repeating these themes in different ways. All right? So, you recognize that attack has no effect. Although you have attacked yourself, you will be demonstrating that nothing really happened. Therefore, by attacking, you have done nothing. Right? It didn't have an effect. Right? It wasn't a very effective idea. Once you realize this, you will no longer see any sense in attack, for it manifestly does not work, and it cannot protect you. Yet the recognition of your invulnerability has more than negative value. If your attacks on yourself have failed to weaken you, you are still strong. You therefore have no need to equalize the situation to establish your strength. All right, this is all about just another way of remembering who you are. Right? And we do that as we move through our day. And we ask our inner teacher, right, you show me who I am. All right? Because my perception of myself is insane. It's not good. Right? I'm telling you, there's periods in my life when I can't walk past a plate glass window in Manhattan. And believe me, there's plenty of them. Right? Because if I turn and look into the plate glass window, there's a good chance I will not like what I'm seeing. All right? And it's almost like somebody just came up through a hole, or a wave came and just splashed all over you. Tried to knock you down. That's when I need to ask my inner teacher. That's when I realize, oh wait, right? I've taken that detour into fear. Please, you show me who I am. All right? Help me to see myself correctly. All right? So once you realize who you really are, he says, you won't see any sense in attack. The whole idea will be laughable. Right? You'll see that there's no sense because it doesn't protect you. Right? It doesn't do anything. It just, I believe it was Freud who spoke about a cycle called attack and defense. If I attack somebody, now I have to get ready because they're going to retaliate. And I know enough by this time in my life that if I attack, like verbally, which is what I was always really good at, I don't win. All right? There is no winning. All right? It just doesn't work. The attack can't protect me. So then you realize who you really are, and you see it's so senseless, so silly. There's no need to do that. All right? So it cannot protect you. It doesn't work. So he says, the recognition of your invulnerability has more than a negative value. It can't protect you. It doesn't work. What it means is that if your attacks on yourself have failed to weaken you, you are still strong. You are who you've always been. You are at home in God, dreaming of exile, as the book says. Right? So they've failed to weaken you. You are still strong. You therefore have no need to equalize. You have no need to equalize the situation or to establish your own strength. Right? So there's a lesson in the book, in the workbook, which has 365 lessons. And Jesus says, just don't do more than one a day. All right? There's a lesson that's 153, and it's titled, "In my defenselessness, my safety lies." And all of a sudden, you hear that and you go, what? It's like I'm supposed to just be, a nonviolent person. And, well, yes, but he's talking about it on a metaphysical level. Your defenselessness is who you are. You don't need a defense. Right? It's who you are. Right? You are the offspring of God. Right? You don't need a defense. And that's where your safety lies, in the fact that you are actually a thought in the mind of God, a thought of love that extended, and there you were. Okay? So, in that recognition, your safety lies. Right? Paragraph 3. It says, you will never realize the utter uselessness of attack except by recognizing that your attack on yourself has no effects. For others do react to attack if they perceive it. And if you are trying to attack them, you will be unable to avoid interpreting this as reinforcement. The only place you can cancel out all reinforcement is in yourself, for you are always the first point of your attack. And if this has never been, it has no consequences. Okay? He says you're always the first point of your attack. And reiterating the fact that you think you separated from God. Now you're weak, so you have to protect yourself by trying to level the playing field, as they say, by attacking others. And he says if you attack others, they're going to interpret it as an attack, and they're going to come for you. Right? And he says all this is doing, it's reinforcing the idea of separation. So that's all it does. It just reinforces the idea that you are separated from God. So, somebody's walking down the street and, I see their clothes are wrinkled and they're stained. Okay? If I start judging them for that, putting them in certain categories, right, then I need to be careful. I'm reinforcing the idea that we're separated from God, right? If I look at another and I see anything else except either the extension of love or a call for love, then I am reinforcing the idea of separation. All right? And we do. We try to, I always like that line in the Van Morrison song where he says, the girls go by dressed up for each other. Right? And in my long, illustrious life, and I had a lot of women in my life, my sisters, the nuns, of course, my grandmothers, right? Never knew my grandfathers. My father died early when I was 23, but still that's early. But I had my mother and my aunts and my grandmothers, and so you get the woman's point of view a lot, And you would learn that, the women, they know that other women are going to be checking them out, So, that's just a form of leveling the playing field. It's just a form of thinking that you're weakened in some way, in a fashion sense maybe. And then you have to level the playing field, right? And I've known some men to do that too, believe me. With the cars they drive, as Mick Jagger would say, you can't be a man unless you smoke the same cigarette as me. Now I'm going way back. Alrighty then. But that's it. We level the playing field. And we do it in small ways and big ways because it's all the same. There's no order of difficulty in the craziness. Okay? Until we get to the point where we realize who we are. And then there's no need to do that anymore. There's just no need. Right? You realize that everyone is either extending love or crying out for the love they think is missing in their life. Okay? So, it's a reinforcement every time I judge somebody, little or small things, okay? I'm reinforcing the idea of separation. All right? This is and you are the first point of your attack. You're always projecting the weakness. You're always projecting that there's something wrong with me. So I have to get rid of it. It's a very uncomfortable thought. I have to get rid of it, so it's you. And by doing that, I'm just perpetuating the idea that we're separated from God. So, paragraph 4, he tells us, he goes, look, no, he doesn't say look, okay? He says, the Holy Spirit's love is your strength, for yours is divided and therefore not real. You cannot trust your own love when you attack it. You cannot learn of perfect love with a split mind, because a split mind has made itself a poor learner. You tried to make the separation eternal because you wanted to retain the effects of the characteristics, rather. You wanted to retain the characteristics of creation, but with your own content. Yet creation is not of you, and poor learners do need special teaching, okay? For all you A students. He said, you try to teach yourself, but a split mind is a poor learner. It's because you tried to make the separation eternal. You tried to make it real as if it were heaven. We asked for special favor from God. Hey, recognize me. Right? Right? The original source just went on extending love. Right? Not giving me special individual attention. And so I said, all right, forget you, man, because I could do the same thing. I could do the same things you do. Watch. But I don't have the content of love, true love. I don't have the content of truth, okay? He says you wanted to retain the characteristics of creation, all right? So we think we create things, right? He says, but, you know, with your own content. And my content in the ego thought system is sin, guilt, and fear, right? Oh, I sinned, I got to get rid of that. I feel guilty, I have to get rid of that, right? That's the content. Right? So he says that's, you know, yet creation is not of you, right? He says you really, you can't do that. You may think you can, you may think you are part of this magnificent display, the harmony of the spheres, as it were. All right? We live in a physically gorgeous country, and the entire globe contains gorgeous things. All right? But the content is not love. Basically, the content is kill or be killed. Right? It's level the playing ground. That's another way of saying level the playing ground. Right? And then Jesus goes on and he says, you have learning handicaps in a very literal sense. There are areas in your learning skills that are so impaired that you can progress only under constant, clear-cut direction provided by a teacher who can transcend your limited resources. He becomes your resource. Because of yourself, you cannot learn. The learning situation in which you place yourself is impossible. And in this situation, you clearly require a special teacher and a special curriculum. Poor learners are not good choices as teachers, either for themselves or for anyone else. You would hardly turn to them to establish the curriculum by which they can escape from their limitations. If they understood what is beyond them, they would not be handicapped. Right? He says, don't look out here in the ego thought system. He says, you're not going to learn in the ego thought system. Right? This is because you're handicapped just by being in the ego thought system. You're learning an insane, chaotic, confusing curriculum. Okay? He says there's just areas that are so impaired. You can only progress under constant, clear-cut direction, provided by a teacher who can transcend your limited resources. That teacher is, as we refer to that in the Course in Miracles, that teacher is the Holy Spirit, personified by Jesus, the memory of who we are. Okay? And in the very beginning of the book, in the preface, I believe it is, it's where that Jesus, the people are telling us this is not, this is not the one true religion. Okay, it's not it. This is one of the ways home. It says this curriculum is set up that at the end it leaves you with your own internal teacher. Okay, and this is the teacher they're referencing right now. Okay, you need that constant, clear-cut direction provided by the Holy Spirit, provided by your inner teacher, your inner guide. Right? Even, other teachers are telling us now. Eckhart Tolle will refer to it as the deep eye. All right, that's cool. It's who you truly are. It's who you truly are. And we have to go contact that inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, your Buddha nature, the deep eye. All right? And whatever you want to call it, feel free. If you're not comfortable with the words in the Course, just try to let the concepts just wash over you. All right? But you do need constant direction. All right? And I could attest to that. Constant, clear-cut direction provided by the teacher who can transcend your limited resources. Within the ego thought system, we are limited. All right? We have to go inside to the mind and touch that part in the mind that is unlimited. Right? It's just limitless. That's where the inner teacher is found. Okay? And we could do that at any moment. It really just takes a sincerity on our part to truly see things differently. All right? To have different perceptions, different interpretations of what's going on in front of me here. All right. So in paragraph 5, he says you have learning handicaps in a very literal sense. Okay, very nonchalantly he says that. Then in paragraph 6, he says you do not know the meaning of love, and that is your handicap. Do not attempt to teach yourself what you do not understand, and do not try to set up curriculum goals where yours have clearly failed. Right? Your learning goal has been not to learn, and this cannot lead to successful learning. You cannot transfer what you have not learned, and the impairment of the ability to generalize is a crucial learning failure. Would you ask those who have failed to learn what learning aids are for? They do not know. If they could interpret the aids correctly, they would have learned from them. Okay? So, it says your learning goal has been not to learn. That's the ego once again. Seek and do not find. Right? The ego will say, oh yeah, sure. It's a great idea. Go learn that. Go learn all about God. Yeah? But deep down inside, we're afraid of that. So the idea is not to learn. Right? We're afraid to learn who we are. We think we're going to disappear. Right? We're going to be obliterated. All right? It's all through the myths of history. There's the message, don't look. All right, Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus coming out of Hades, out of the underworld, because Hades had kidnapped his girlfriend. All right, and was keeping her there. So he makes a bargain with Hades. And Hades goes, yeah, sure, she can come up in the springtime. All right? But you have to, as you walk up the stairs, you can't turn around and look. And he did, and he blew the whole thing. And then there was the story of Lot's wife as they're leaving Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's blowing up. And they were told not to look back. And Lot's wife looked back. And she turned to stone. All right? Turned to stone. All right. It's always the message. Don't look. Don't go there. All right? But we're admonished in the Course to look. Look. I believe the word look it appears well over 600 times, close to 700 times. And I think if I'm not mistaken, the word look appears 666 times. Seems like Jesus is playing a little joke. All right? But the word look is very important. Just look without judgment. And then you can decide, oh, is that what I want? Instead of, because if you start judging yourself like, oh, I did it again, I've been studying this course for so long, or I've been meditating for so many years. I've been, reading this person and that person. I've been searching and searching, and, look what I did. I called that person an idiot. All right, then you hate yourself. And he says, just look. Look at what you think is the need to project that onto another person. Because like you said, you always attack yourself first. Okay? So, but another thing that he mentions here, he says, you cannot transfer what you have not learned. Right? And the impairment of the ability to generalize is a crucial learning failure. So this idea of generalizing, okay, it's like you went to grammar school. You learned your times tables, as they used to say. Or you learned how to add. Right? You learned 1 + 1 is 2, and so on. Right? And 1 × 2 is 2, and so on. But you didn't learn how to add every number. What you did was you learned the mechanics of addition and subtraction and all that, and you generalized it. Now you can plug in any number and do the math, as they say. All right? So that's what we're trying to do, is to get to the point where we can generalize. Right? There's no more specific offenses that we have to analyze. And I'm not saying don't analyze things, but until you can get to a point where you just generalize and you know, oh, that's the result of believing that I'm separated from God. That's the generalization. All right? And he says, because of the impairment of the ability to generalize, that's a crucial learning failure. All right? And that's why in the beginning of the course, I believe the first sentence is, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. All right? All expressions of love are maximal. They're generalized. They're all the same. All right? One earthly situation is not different or more serious than another in our metaphysical thinking here. All right? We can approach them in the generalization of, I want to see this correctly. I want to see this through the eyes of peace. I want to see this through the eyes of someone who remembers who they are. No matter what the situation, you can apply that to any situation. Okay. Paragraph 7. I have said that the ego's rule is, seek and do not find. Translated into curricular terms, this means, try to learn, but do not succeed. The result of this curriculum goal is obvious. Every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted, since they are all for facilitating the learning this strange curriculum is against. If you are trying to learn how not to learn, and the aim of your teaching is to defeat itself, what can you expect but confusion? Such a curriculum does not make sense. This attempt at learning has so weakened your mind that you cannot love, for the curriculum you have chosen is against love and amounts to a course in how to attack yourself. A supplementary goal in this curriculum is learning how not to overcome the split that makes its primary aim believable. And you will not overcome the split in this curriculum, for all your learning will be on its behalf. Yet your mind speaks against your learning as your learning speaks against your mind. And so you will fight against all learning and succeed, for that is what you want. But perhaps you do not realize even yet that there is something you want to learn, and that you can learn, because it is your choice to do so. Okay? So within the ego thought system, he says the ego's rule is seek and do not find. So as far as learning goes, it's, try to learn, but don't succeed. Right? And even if we're looking at this course through the eyes of the ego, everything's going to be misinterpreted. All right? Everything will be misinterpreted. All right? And the ego's very good at that. It latches right on to whatever you want to do. And so we misinterpret things. You know, you will go, visit your friends, or you go visit your friends. They're not feeling good, and you start off the conversation with, "Well, don't you know that sickness is a defense against the truth?" That's misinterpreting the thrust of the Course. Okay? That's really misinterpreting things. But that's when we let the ego slip back in there. Right? And that's what he means, but we need constant, clear-cut direction. We need to constantly be asking the Holy Spirit, Jesus, our inner teacher, help me with this. Help me to see it. Okay? And your desire has to be that you truly want to see correctly. You truly want peace. Right? And the peace is that fertile garden where love grows. You become aware of the love. And then the whole ecosystem is silly. All right? But he says this ego curriculum you've chosen against love. Right? And the ego it amounts to a course in attacking yourself. All right? So it reinforces itself. Okay? Yeah, and Jesus talks about confusion. Where is it? He says, if you are trying to learn how not to learn, and the aim of teaching is to defeat itself, what can you expect but confusion? And sometimes what I experience as I read the text is that even as you're reading these words, or as I'm reading the words, I'm confused. I'm like, what? What is he? What did he say? Right? And I've experienced that a few times. I think that's. I really do believe that's in the play of the mind as we continue to read the text. Things like that happen. But actually, it's just an aside. So, he says, perhaps you do not realize even yet that there is something you want to learn, and you can learn it because it is your choice to do so. Right? He says that that's what you really want, deep down inside. You really want to learn who you really are and where your Father is. Right? There was a wonderful teacher at the foundation when I was going there in the 90s up in Roscoe, New York. Right? Dr. Rosemary Losasso. She's still connected with the foundation. Everybody would get a name tag as you sign in, as you register, right? And one day she said that all of our name tags should be, my name should be my burning desire for God and His for me. Right? That's what Jesus is talking about. There is something that you do want to learn, and it is your choice, all right? And you will become aware of that sooner or later. All right? Paragraph 8. You who have tried to learn what you do not want should take heart. For although the curriculum you set yourself is depressing indeed, it is merely ridiculous if you look at it. Is it possible that the way to achieve a goal is not to attain it? It says, resign now as your own teacher. This resignation will not lead to depression. It is merely the result of an honest appraisal of what you have taught yourself and of the learning outcomes that have resulted. Under the proper learning conditions, which you can neither provide nor understand, you will become an excellent learner and an excellent teacher. But it is not so yet, and will not be so until the whole learning situation as you have set it up is reversed. All right? He says, resign now as your own teacher. All right? And believe me, he says, this resignation won't make you sad. It won't lead to depression. All right? This resignation is merely the result of an honest appraisal of what you've taught yourself and what the outcomes are. Right? What we've taught ourselves is that we've separated from God. And this nutty world is the outcome. And all the machinations that we go through to give ourselves moments of comfort and pleasure and just, geez, even just a little rest, you know? It says you look at the results of these things you've taught yourself, and you'll gladly resign as your own teacher. All right? So he says, so under the proper learning conditions, which you can neither provide nor understand, you will become an excellent learner and an excellent teacher. All right? So these proper learning conditions, which when we go to the right mind, we go inside to the inner teacher, okay? Different outcomes will present themselves. You will become an excellent learner and an excellent teacher, right? And you won't have to be going around preaching and proselytizing and writing books and all that. You'll be carrying the truth with you. That's being a teacher of God. You connect with who you truly are, and that comes through you because everyone is the same. And that spark grows and grows, and it ignites the spark, the memory in others. So you become a teacher. And if you have to do things, you do things. And if you have to say things, you say things. But you'll be guided. All right? You will know what to do and say. He says, but it's not so yet, and will not be so until the whole learning situation you have set up is reversed. Okay? So I have to reverse my desire to align myself with the ego. And I do that by looking. I say, oh, look, I did it again. I aligned myself with the ego. This is the result of believing I'm separated from God. And then we ask for help. We ask the teacher, please show me otherwise. Help me to retranslate. All right? And in that way, we reverse what we have taught ourselves, which is you're separated from God. All right? You did something wrong, and now you're going to get it. Look out, kid, it's something you did. God knows when, but you're doing it again. Personally, I do like Bob Dylan. All right, Subterranean Homesick Blues. Paragraph 9. Your learning potential, properly understood, is limitless because it will lead you to God. You could teach the way to Him and learn it if you follow the teacher who knows the way to Him and understands his curriculum for learning it. The curriculum is totally unambiguous because the goal is not divided, and the means and the end are in complete accord. You need offer only undivided attention. Everything else will be given you, for you really want to learn aright, and nothing can oppose the decision of God's Son. His learning is as unlimited as he is. All right. So, he says, your learning potential is unlimited. It's limitless. All right. Properly understood, it's limitless because it will lead you to God. And then you realize you are limitless. All right. And then, still within the dream for a while, you could teach the way to him and learn it. If you follow the teacher who knows the way and understands his curriculum for learning it. So we constantly go to our inner teacher. Constantly. You know, whatever words you want to use. You know, like sometimes I say, make a report. Say, look, this is the way I see things, and I don't feel good. This is the way I see things, and I'm really angry. This is the way I see things. This is the way I see this situation, and I'm really afraid. Can you help me? I'd rather be peaceful. I really want the peace of God. All right, that's the dialogue with the internal teacher. All right, and as they say later on, what you are will tell you of itself. And this is the practice that we go to. This is the constant, clear-cut direction that we're asking for, that we really want. All right? I really want that. All right. So your learning potential is limitless. All right? You need for only undivided attention. In the beginning, it may be only for that instant. And when we experience the results of that instant with our internal teacher, we will want more of that. And it will grow. It will grow. Because you really want to learn aright. And nothing can oppose the decision of God's Son. Okay? Alrighty then. And that's the Sane Curriculum, is what we're looking for. That sane curriculum, that healthy curriculum. All right? We asked the teacher of sanity to guide us, to show us, to reinterpret things for us. And then you will know who you are. Alrighty. Thank you. And I look forward to the next lesson, the next session. All right. What else can I say? Although I'm tempted to say a lot. All right then. Bye.